Hello, welcome back to Stories That Shaped Her. Today I'm with my very good friend Jess Bova, and we're going to talk about how she decided to quietly, maybe not so quiet, walk away from something that she loved dearly to be the mother that she always wanted to be. So, a little bit about Jess. One big thing about Jess is she is going to be inducted into the Pitt Hall of Fame for softball. She is the first woman in, what did you say, 30 years
Yeah, I think something like that.
to be inducted into the Pitt University of Pittsburgh Hall of Fame. And among many other accomplishments, she has 4 beautiful boys. She is a wonderful human being, and she was one of my most amazing coaches ever at CrossFit TPA. So, without further ado, I want to ask Jess, first and foremost, what does it feel like to be inducted into the Pitt Hall of Fame for sports?
Yeah, you know what? I am still having a hard time wrapping my mind around it. To be honest with you, I don't know. It's the honor of a lifetime. It's hard to believe. It's it's everything to me.
How long did you play softball for Pitt?
I played all 4 years, and then the 2 years after that, I was an assistant coach.
Okay. Okay. And how long in your lifespan did you play softball?
So I actually didn't start playing softball until I was a teenager. Like I
Oh,
was,
wow.
yeah, I played baseball. So I played with the boys until I was too old to play with boys. Basically, it just reached a point where something had to change and I had to make a move. And I played slow pitch softball for, I think, a season or two. And it was not for me. Just was, I liked it and enjoyed it. But I liked the pace of baseball a little bit better. And so shortly after that, moved to fast pitch softball. And that was all she wrote. But it probably wasn't until fifth, sixth, seventh grade. Like I was pretty old, compared to the kids now who start and they're children, they're toddlers when they start playing softball now. But
Oh, wow.
it just wasn't a big thing in our area. And I played with the boys and enjoyed doing it. And so I didn't start playing softball, yeah, until much later, like most people.
Wow. Well, that is absolutely incredible that this September 2025, you will be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Amazing. One of the most amazing things she's done. But Jess, will you give us a little backstory about what you've done that led you up to the conversation that we're going to have?
Oh man, start to finish. It's pretty weird. No, so like I said, I was a lifelong athlete, loved to play sports. Softball eventually, really became my love and my passion. But up until that point, I pretty much played all sports. Whatever was in season is what I played. And I did not take the traditional like travel ball route that, everyone is taking now. It's the way the world works now. But, back then I didn't know that it existed. Like I played community sports and I played high school sports and lived and died for it, but really never had any idea that this other world existed or that that's how girls went to college or that's how they continued we just had no idea, life without the internet. What do? How does information travel? I have no idea. So I took a very unconventional route to get to college. So I did not play on a travel team. I didn't take any lessons. I just played with my high school friends, and I was fortunate to have really incredible high school coaches that definitely cared a lot about me and did their best to keep our team playing together for the majority of the year. So that was the one kind of saving grace, is that I did play with the same girls pretty much all year long, but it was mostly our high school team and some girls from some other local high schools. But yeah, I did not do what kids are doing today, basically. I was really confused when nobody wanted me to play softball at their school. I didn't understand why people weren't kicking my door down, and I didn't play the game. I wasn't recruited really, if at all. When I went to Pitt, I went as a preferred walk-on at first, so I didn't have a scholarship. They said I could go there if I wanted, and that there would be a spot for me on the team. In the spring of my senior year, one of the girls broke her arm and she wasn't coming back to the team, so they did pay for my books when I went my freshman year. I know, it was awesome. Yeah, so pretty much unrecruited, unknown, went to Pitt as a preferred walk-on, and the first day that I was on campus, I got to move in a day early because my aunt, also my godmother, worked in the parking and transportation office, which was like the greatest thing ever. I grew up going with her to take your child to work day. So I was very familiar with Oakland. I loved Pitt at that point. So she was able to get my dorm room key a day early. So I moved into Pitt a day early. And as soon as I got myself settled and my stuff in and my parents had left, I saw, "Oh, first thing I'm going to do is walk up to my coach's office and say, hi, I'm here. You know, I'm really excited." So that's what I did. I went from Sutherland up to the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. And I remember the office was on the third floor. I walked upstairs and I knocked on her door, and she turned around and she said, "Hi, can I help you?" And I was standing there and I was like, well, coach, it's me, Jess." She goes, "Jess who?" And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, "Jess Dignan, I'm on your team. Just was letting you know that I'm here. I moved in, really excited." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you know, I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you." And, you know, we had a brief conversation after that, but I left and was not happy and was like, oh boy. So I did anything, you know, I did the same thing that anybody would do. I picked up the phone, I called my mom, and I just was like bitching up a storm. And I was like, I can't believe I came here. I made a terrible mistake. Um, you know, I was upset that she didn't know who I was, and, you know, but I do remember very vividly, I was right in front of the Peterson Event Center, and I screamed into the phone that I'm going to make sure she never forgets me as long as she lives. That like I will, I'll make sure she won't forget me. So yeah, that's kind of how my career started, was that unrecruited, unknown, literally and figuratively. Yeah, and that was it. That's where I started. I had just the greatest group of teammates you could ever ask for throughout my time at Pitt. But yeah, just the absolute greatest. I loved my experience there. I loved the coaches, and I loved everything about it. I love the university. I love being a student athlete there. So yeah, it was an awesome experience. It ended, you know, my senior year. We were in the Big East tournament. You know, we had lost, and that was kind of all she wrote for my softball career, or kind of at that time. So I thought we had gone, you know, back to Pittsburgh after losing. And, you know, there was kind of like this weird week in between where you're kind of like collecting your things and saying your goodbyes, and you're kind of moving on to the next thing. And at that point, I had a job lined up at like a baseball softball facility. I was just going to start giving lessons. And at that point, I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, because up until that point, it was just playing softball. And however I could do it and however I could stay on the field and keep playing, that's what I did, until it ended what felt like very abruptly, even though it was coming for like a very long time. I couldn't see past the tip of my nose. All I wanted to do was keep playing. So the week between, you know, when we were leaving and when I was going to start being an adult, my coach, who, you know, a couple years before didn't remember who I was, had called me, and she sent me an email and asked me to come in, and I talked to her, and she showed me this tryout form for, you know, professional softball. And this is funny. I didn't know that there was professional softball at that point. So 2 weeks before I was a professional athlete, I didn't know that there was a professional softball league. And it was this forum for open tryouts. And she really like strongly suggested that I go, and she thought I should give it a shot. And it was in Washington, D.C., so it wasn't terribly far. And I just said, there's no way, I'm done. And I think the disappointment I felt in the upset for that chapter of my life being done and being closed and leaving my teammates, and that weird transition time, I told her that I couldn't possibly like handle any more disappointment. So that if I went down there and I didn't make the team, like I'm good. I was upset enough, like you know, I was going to end it right there. And she did not accept that answer. Thank God. Thank God. She called my parents, which is like, what a snitch, right? Like, you don't do that. Like, I was 21, 22 at that point, and I got a phone call from my dad who was not happy that I didn't tell him that this was happening or that it was an option or that, I didn't talk to them about it. And, then obviously why wouldn't I go down and give it a shot? So kind of like within that week, I went from, this is it, in the end of my career and we're hanging up the cleats and it's over, to what eventually opened a door for this really awesome wild adventure. And just having the opportunity to continue playing the game, and again, just meeting these really incredible women from all over the country, who I had the opportunity to learn so much from, not only about softball, but, about life. And so, yeah, I went to Washington, D.C. That was my first stop. I did make the team. And I played that summer, which was, again, just an incredible experience. In the meantime, another kind of unlikely turn of events, our head coach, the head coach that was at Pitt left, and the assistant coach was becoming the head coach, and the second assistant moved up to the first assistant. So there was a vacant coaching position now on staff at Pitt for the softball program, and they had asked me to stay. And if I guess stay, I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, but I guess come back in a sense and be an assistant coach, and that's what I did. So yeah, my life changed pretty drastically, pretty quickly. So I wound up playing professional softball for 2 seasons. The first season was in Washington, D.C., so we lived right outside of the D.C. area in Chantilly, Virginia. And the second season, our team moved to Kissimmee, Florida. So we were right outside of Orlando. Yes, and I played for the USSSA Pride. And that was an awesome experience because in 2008, that was an Olympic year. So all of the girls who played in the professional league who were Olympians did not play that season because they were training and obviously playing in the Olympics. We were fortunate enough to get to play like the Brazilian national team, the Chinese national team, like all of the teams that different countries sent to the Olympics. We got to play that summer. So that was a really awesome experience. But the second year, all of the Olympians, at that point, unfortunately, Olympics was pulled, or softball was pulled from the Olympics. So they had all come back to the professional league. And I had the opportunity for a season to play with some of those women. And that was just a remarkable experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And now you're going to be inducted.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So, what we're going to talk about today is motherhood and being an entrepreneur. 2 very, very difficult things to marry together for women. And I think this is a very courageous and vulnerable conversation that we're about to have about stepping away from something that you absolutely love to be the mom that you want to be. So my first question is, what was the business?
It was you.
I know that.
It was a gym. One that I loved. Oh my goodness. So very much. Yeah. I started with Tammy. So I guess I'll explain that. My first day at CrossFit TK was actually your birthday.
Mhm.
When you go to a party and everyone knows something and you don't know something, or everyone has a gift and you didn't bring one and you walk in, you're like, oh shit. That's exactly what happened. I walked in and everyone was showering Tammy with gifts in love. And I just was like, I'm here to work out. What's happening? Yeah. So I started on your birthday, and there was so much about being at the gym that was like being on a team. And that is where I feel most comfortable, is with my homies, with my people in the locker room, in that kind of setting, in that type of environment. And it felt so similar. It felt so much like being at home. That I just gravitated towards it and loved it. And I loved every part of it. So yes.
Jess was my general manager. I mean, not right off the bat, but she became a coach. Oh, she nutrition coach. She was my right hand and left hand at times. Just amazing, amazing human, phenomenal coach. So many stories we could talk
Oh my
about.
gosh. That's like 17 different podcasts we could.
Yes. Yes. So one day during our reviews, I would review the coaches, and I had asked Jess what she wanted to do. Like, what in a few years, what's your end game? What's your goal? What do you want to do? And she said, I want this. I want I want this. I want a gym. I want to have a gym, whether it was this gym or whatever. So instead of me freaking out and worried that Jess was going to leave, I said, well, why don't I just teach you how to run this? And then one day when you're ready, you can just take it over. Um, and I don't know what the time span between those conversations were.
I'm trying to think, how many two brain conferences did we go in between that? I think 2.
Yeah,
3?
we were going on our third one.
Yeah.
We were going to our third one right before we left to go to our two brain conference in Chicago. Jess and I were having a quick conversation. I don't know if it was about the newsletter, whatever, but at the end of that conversation, you said real quickly, I'm ready to buy if you're ready to sell. And I was like, hell yes. I didn't even think about it. And I don't know if she even thought about it or
No, because I was like, oh no. She said yes.
now what? But that's kind of where it went. And there was no better person to take over the gym. I knew that when she said in our goal setting session that that's what she wanted to do. I knew that there was no better person to do it. So fast forward, you take it over, I step away. It flourishes, and then you can take it from there.
Yeah, so I think at the point when we were working together and I was there working for you, I think I only had Lucas. So I only had my oldest son.
Yes.
And I started right after I had him.
You were just released to work out.
Yeah. Oh boy, did I need it. Yeah, it was perfect timing, and I think a little serendipitous that I showed up on your birthday for my first day. But I only had Lucas when we started, and then Matthew as well. Both of those boys grew up in the gym. I think if there was like a toddler record for the amount of RX bars consumed, like over the period of, I mean, like 3 months, 6 months, a year, even 24 hours, I would put all my money on him. I think for a long time, I only worked to pay my bills for protein bars and FitAids at the gym. But at that point, when we had made that transition, oh man, I had just had the 2 of them. No, Andrew.
Andrew.
And I had Andrew. That's right. I had 3. I'm trying to remember. And at that point, I was very fortunate that your wonderful husband, Jerry, built a kid cage, which is what we called it. I guess physically that's what it was. There was a lot more love back there than that. But I was able to bring them with me every day. And as we moved forward, like through our transition and Matt and I became owners of the gym, we had Hannah Morgan. And can we just take Morgan a second and talk about Hannah Morgan? I love you, Hannah. I love you. I love you. So Hannah, for those of you who don't know Hannah, you would love her too. So let me just answer that question for you. But Hannah was a member of the gym at the time, a wonderful friend to everybody, to everyone that she knows. And was in a place in her life where she was able to stick around at the gym and hang out with the boys. And she spent a lot of time with our kids and with my family. And we were very, very fortunate for that. So I really, looking back on it now, I really was only able to ever do anything because I had Hannah's help. Really, like she was such a blessing in so many different ways. And I really think, especially when we talk about the boys, just no better influence or person or soul or energy to have around your kids, especially like at that point when they were so young.
Yeah.
Um, so I need to first and foremost say that none of this happens without Hannah Morgan. I mean, that's a fact. So yeah, we were able to kind of like have the situation where it was the best of both worlds for a long time. The kids could come to work with me and they were able to be in this awesome environment with positive people who were trying to better themselves, with other kids who had parents who were doing the same. And it was awesome. And we were really lucky that it worked out like that. Until we found out that it didn't work anymore. It got really difficult. The older they get, the more stuff that they do. So we started participating in way more activities. And at the time, they were also going to a private school, which I drove them to, between Matt and myself. So, these poor kids are getting up at, 5:45 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. They're coming to the gym first, and Matt's coaching a class or he's exercising, and I need to come in. So we're switching kids, and Matt's taking the kids to work. The kids are sitting at work with him for a little bit, and then they get in the car. Okay, now they're going to school. Like they've put in half of a day, and they've not even cracked a book yet. You know what I mean? Like they're ready for like a coffee break by the time they start school.
Right.
And so that, things like that were also becoming very apparent to me is how much everyone else was doing to make this work. And then I really started to ask myself the question, like, is this really worth it anymore? So yeah, it was probably the better part of a year where I started to feel like some real friction in my life, like, oh, this is getting really difficult. And I, for over a decade, went to the gym every single day, every single morning. It was my favorite place to be. Any time of the day, I love to be there. But so then, one of my solutions was, okay, I'm going to pull back a little bit and I'm going to work from home. Because there was never a shortage of things to do or work to be done. So really, whether I was sitting at the gym or sitting at my house doing it in a more favorable situation for my kids, the work was getting done. It was harder for me though, because I started to remove myself from the place that brought me so much happiness and joy. And seeing people every day and talking to them and hearing about their kids and their job promotions, and we're getting married and we're having babies and this is what my child did, and oh my goodness, listen to this great news. Or the harder parts of life, especially the harder parts of life, and the suffering and the sadness and the tears that we shared and advice that we shared and experiences. And this is how I got through it. It was I don't know, it was just it's a special atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And it's different and it's unique. And like I said, it's like being a part of a team. But the only answer at that point was that in order for it to work a little bit better for our family, I needed to start staying at home a little bit more. And I also think it's worth noting, this is post-COVID. This is post-COVID. We now have 4 children. And the ways of the world and the kid cage and how we brought kids to work had also changed as well. And
it wasn't just the Booger brothers that my boys were referred to having, just a cold or a runny nose. It's the kids have COVID. You can't bring them in. It's a risk to all the other children.
The testing, the contacts, the phone calls, it's just, it became impossible.
Yeah.
And with the amount of kids that at that point we were putting back there was a lot. And then, on the business end of things and making sure that, our insurance is, not void, it just was getting to the point where we couldn't sustain it any longer.
Yeah.
For lots of different reasons. And that is really when things started to change.
So let's see. So what emotions came up as you began to consider stepping away?
I blamed everything else except for the gym. It was my poor planning. I wasn't good at scheduling. I Yeah, I pointed fingers at pretty much everything else. I didn't want it to be the gym because that couldn't possibly have been it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, if I just, could meal plan better. Like if I had dinner done before I left the house, then it was not a big deal, right? It was going to work. And, um, the friction only just grew more intense. It just everything and every day became pretty tough. It just got hard.
Yeah. Um, all the way around, whether it's relationship with Matt or your relationship with the kids, stress trickles into everything.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, at first, the first emotion was always like, oh no, I can change this and I can change that. And what if we did this? Or what if I worked from home? Or what if I just stayed here this many days? Or if this person could come and help on this day. And, I did a lot of that at first. And then I don't know, it was like a slow sadness that started to kind of creep in. Because I knew and I didn't want that to be the answer, but I started to see a little more clearly
Yeah.
what the right answer was.
What was the moment that you said, this this was my defining moment?
Yeah, it was a Monday morning. I'll never forget it. I at that point was only going to the gym really once a week, where I was putting like a solid amount of hours in, and I was there every day, and so everything that I needed to schedule with people was on that day, and I crammed everything I possibly could into that day. And for this particular week, it was a Monday, and some of these things that I had on my schedule that day were things that I had rescheduled for now, like the second and third time, which is hard to begin with. Like it's hard not to be dependable when you are at the mercy of other people's schedules and in life and sickness and things happen all the time. And the more kids you have, the more things that happen. And, um, so on this particular Monday, I was very excited to like tackle the day. I had some exciting meetings and projects that I was excited about and I had on my calendar for that day. And one of my kids woke up and he was sick. And it wasn't like, oh, he's got a runny nose, like he was screaming high fever. I think he threw up, like he was sick. And I was mad at him. And then I think whenever I realized, obviously at that point we got to medicine, we did what we needed to do to take care of him. But just the amount of frustration that I felt, um, I was mad at him. That was it. Um, and it was really just a moment of, you know, I don't want to say that I gave up, but I gave up the idea that I could keep doing it. The kids they were too old. We were doing too much. And at that point too, and luckily the gym had grown a lot, but it grew to the point where it felt like in order for it to continue to grow and for us to continue to achieve the things that we wanted to achieve and were on paper, it was only going to require more time and effort. And at that point in my life, everybody and everything had 1% of my attention, whether it was my kids or Matt, or if we were sitting in a meeting talking about who was going to cover this class and do this thing. I'm listening and I'm thinking about it. It was 1% across the board. And I knew it. And it was hard to maintain. But yeah, in that day, I I gave up the idea that I could keep doing it. And that's,
Yeah. Because, well, on my side, I had known you for so long. You're like an all in. I'm all in. I'm all in. And honestly, you've said that. You said that to me so many times over the years that you worked for me. I'm all in. And I can imagine the difficult just it being so difficult that you're not. You're not.
No, and I mean, at that point, I wasn't all in on anything. The only thing I was all in on was just being like a scattered mess. That I was all in on that because that's really what I was. I was doing a lot of things, and if I was, it didn't feel like I was doing them well, and if I was doing them well, it's probably an accident because it just was, yeah, we were beyond maximum capacity.
Um, Now, obviously, we're close, and I know some of these answers, but what was the hardest part about walking away?
Oh, the people, um, the 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 joy of just the daily interactions. I love people. I love those people. There are people. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it definitely was the hardest part.
Yeah. Um, I definitely, I understand that. Um, uh, so, have you discovered parts of motherhood that you didn't know you were missing?
Yeah, because I was missing a lot. Even if I was there, I was mentally not registering the things that we were doing or the things that we were happening. So, um, yeah, I think especially now it's just the joys in the mundane, in the everyday, in watching them change and grow and like really seeing them, you know?
Mm.
And before, when you're distracted and you're busy and you're thinking about the next thing, you miss all of those moments. You know what I mean? The stuff that happens in the quiet that if you're distracted, you miss.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful that we cleared our plate enough that I could see it, some of those things.
Yeah. Um, do you miss the gym?
Every day. Every day. I miss the people. I miss talking to people. I miss, you just like get on board with what people are trying to achieve and what they want to do in life, and whether it's with their health or their careers or their families. It's such a personal environment in such a different way than any other like kind of gym. Um, so I really miss getting to cheer for people every day, just getting to see it and be a part of it. I miss that the most.
Yeah.
It was so little about the fitness and so little about, you know, any other part of it,
Yeah.
but just being a part of, getting to be a witness to other people's lives, success and failure, happiness and sadness, life and death. I mean, it's interesting how much you experience with other people in that locker room, kind of setting.
Mm-hmm. And it was definitely a different type of gym. It's a CrossFit gym. It's not a big Globo gym. It's not like Planet Fitness or anything like that. The CrossFit gym in itself is rooted in the friendships, rooted in the connections, rooted in the high fives and the laughter and the cheering on one another. I mean, it is very few and far places that you ever go into that someone else is cheering for you to do better than what they did. And
mean it.
yeah, for real. And absolutely. I don't know if I want to say, like, how do you honor your grief of letting the gym go? Do you?
I think more so recently than before, right? Because it's like, I mean, girl,
Yeah.
we lived it together.
Yeah.
It's a weird, interesting process.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there's so many feelings that I kind of wrestled with. And I think a big one was that I felt like a failure. Like I felt like I was a failure for not being able to keep it up. You know what I mean? Like what is wrong with me that I can't manage this business and these 4 kids and a husband and a life? And yeah, it was a lot. So I think now I'm just saying like it was completely unreasonable what I was trying to do and what we were doing at that time. Because also, like, Matt was doing Ironman races. Like, there was, like, a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's interesting. I think being a person who wants to be successful in all of the different areas of my life and the different things that I do, there was weird feelings of like failure and like I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And that was hard and that took a while. And I think I would be lying if I said I don't feel like that some days, or sometimes. But I made the right choice. And I know that every day. And the amount of times that Matt and I've looked at each other and said, we would have never, what would we have done? We would never have been able to do this. And not even like out of anything crazy, just the way that our lives have evolved and what they look like now. Um, I'm not sure how it ever would have worked. So I need to remember that it was while we had it and while it was there and in that particular season of life, right? Like the closing of this chapter felt just like the closing of my playing chapter in ending a softball career. And I have found much more appreciation for that season of my life and the lessons that I learned. And it really was like one giant adult growth spurt, right? Especially like with COVID there in the middle, but just so much joy and so much happiness out of these relationships that I formed and these connections that we made. And yeah, so it's been a long, weird process,
Yeah.
but one now I'm thankful to be much more grateful for.
Um, if you could speak to the version of you who was torn between your business and motherhood, what would you tell her now? What would you tell you?
Oh man, yeah, it is the right choice. It's a hard lesson to learn, but I have found that rarely in life does the right choice ever feel good, right? Like it usually feels really, really bad in the beginning. But now it doesn't. Now I'm thankful. The experiences that we get to have now as a family and the things that I'm not missing anymore and just being able to ask somebody a question and then listen to the answer is a gift. And um so yeah, it gets, maybe it's gonna get harder before it gets better, but it is the right choice.
Yeah. It is, after all the women that I've mentored over the years that owned gyms, that owned different businesses, that was the number one question. How do I balance it all? How do I do this? And it's not an easy answer. It's definitely not an easy answer. And you can't ever rewind and go back to Matthew sitting in the bouncy seat. Well, the bouncy seat that we made in the
That we
rig.
should have patented. Like
We
if I
should
could
have.
go back and tell myself anything, I would tell
Yes.
myself, patent that bouncy chair and ride off into the sunset. Like, what are you doing?
Yes. You can't rewind. But as these stories, as the reason why I'm doing this podcast is there's small chapters in your life book and you learn from those chapters as you go on. There's reasons that we trudge through the muck and the mire and the whatever to get to the other side, to learn that knowledge of going through that. What story do you hope your boys will carry with them about the decision you made?
That's a great question. It's interesting because part of me almost hopes that they only ever remember us being there and they don't ever remember the nights that I wasn't because there was a lot. Um, but just that they are the most important work I'll ever do. That like this is the most important job I'm ever going to have.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the older you get, obviously, the more you think back and you reflect, and every holiday they celebrate and how they celebrate it and the way they treat their spouses and the way that they treat other people and the voice in their head and where did you learn that from and your parents like that's the answer. And you know I I hope they get to tell the story of, yeah, it was cool, we got to grow up in a gym and we played sports and it was awesome and we had this experience. But I hope the story is that we were always there with them.
Yeah. So you started with me when Lucas was 6 weeks because you just got cleared. How old?
I think he was a little bit old.
A little bit older?
He was fresh.
He was fresh.
He was fresh.
So how old are they now and what do they do?
Oh my. So Lucas, who was just a couple weeks old when you met him, is now 13 and is a teenager. Um, oh, my baby. He is just the sweetest, kindest, thoughtful child you could ever meet. He is his dad through and through. I think I really was nothing but just his vehicle. Like I just was his ride to earth. Like that was it. Uh, so he looks a lot like Matt. He acts a lot like Matt. He loves to run. He's a cross country runner. He tried pole vaulting last year and really enjoyed it. So like the track and field, he has found a little niche with it he really enjoys. He's also still a military lover. So that boy, since the day he was born, always really like had a heart to serve, in some capacity.
Mhm.
And it really, for the last couple of years, he's really talked about the military. And, he's only 13, but, I would not be surprised if that's what his path in life turned out to be.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a phenomenal kid. Matthew, the world's like the Kobayashi, the Joey Chestnuts of our exports. He is now 10, almost 11.
Wow.
Yeah. My little pork chop. Still porky as ever. My boy, he's a big time hockey player. So we spend a lot of time at ice rinks. He also baseball, we do flag football, whatever kind of is in season outside of the year-long sports is what he's doing. He's a little bit more like me. He's a little bit more challenging for me because it's a lot like looking in a mirror.
Mm.
When something happens and you're like, "Ooh, gosh," it just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we get a lot of that, he and I. Andrew is our next. He's number 3, who was a challenge coming to this earth. It was not an easy process. He is now 7 and is healthy and as happy as could be. Also a hockey player, baseball player, flag football, all the same stuff, just all the sports. He's the happiest kid on earth. So he's 7, and in 7 years, he's had 0 bad days. He had 1 bad day. He had 1 bad day, but other than that, he's an absolute ray of sunshine every day. He's a real gift to be around. He's awesome. And then our youngest, Joshua, if you can believe this, is 5.
No.
Not a baby. I've got no more babies left
Wow.
in my house. So, yeah, Joshua's either going to leave the free world or a gang, and there is no in between. None.
Kindergarten this year.
He's got 1 more year. So he's got a June birthday. He's
Okay.
going to do 1 more year of pre-K. But he will be in school every day this year. Only till lunchtime. I know. Don't raise your eyebrows too high. We're not there quite yet. But yeah, he'll be in school every day till lunchtime. So also a weird, interesting, feeling now.
Mm-hmm. It's a whole different, another transition.
Yeah, not there quite yet. So
No.
wait a little bit longer for that one.
Is Joshua in any sports yet?
Yeah, he's into everything.
Yeah.
Whatever everyone else is doing, he's right there in the middle, starting a fight.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now you and Matt, I love you both. But I love that you've been married for how long?
15 years.
Okay. 15 years. And you make it a priority to go on how many trips a year? One or two?
I mean, two is shooting for the moon. I mean, that would be a miracle. But just once a year, we try and take some kind of trip anywhere.
Just the two of you.
Just the two of us. A
That
necessity.
is huge.
It's a necessity.
Yes. Huge. How long have you been doing that?
I don't want to say every year since we've been married. We are super, super fortunate that we have so much help between my parents and his parents. And my parents are super comfortable with taking my kids for, longer stretches and his as well. So I don't want to say every year. I don't know if that's a fact, but it's for a while.
Yeah. Most. I find that is just huge, huge for reconnecting.
Oh my gosh. Who
Huge.
knew that being married was so much work?
It is, isn't it? Gosh. That's another podcast episode. We'll get there.
Yeah. No, it absolutely has to be a priority, especially now with the way that our schedules work and the boys and the things that we're involved in and just the way that our life looks. It's a conversation and it's intentional and it's 10 minutes or 10 days. There has to be some time where we are not with our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Even if it's like not even in the same room, like if we could just like step outside on the porch for just a couple minutes. Yeah, I will say I'm very grateful that I think that we both work really hard for that because it's the only way it works.
Yeah, for sure. I agree wholeheartedly on that. I was late to the game on that. I think Jerry and I were married 10 years before we ever went on a just us vacation.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to.
Very much so. So this was a really hard conversation for you. The vulnerability. What are you doing now besides being a mom, being a taxi driver, being a referee,
Short order
for
cook.
boys, all of that?
Yeah, landscaper. Yeah, so really at this point, our lives fully revolve around the kids and each other, and that is a really nice, happy change. That families and spending time together is priority number one. However, most of that happens in the car when we're driving to and from different places. The boys are happy and healthy and heavily involved in things that they love to do. So we're driving to and from and watching a lot of that. Personally, I have in the last couple of years, I've done a lot of softball related things and have had the opportunity to reconnect with a lot of people that I played with and coached with and had a lot of fun with, and have slowly over the last couple of years gotten more involved. But more recently, we did build a batting cage in the backyard, and I have more consistently had the opportunity to work with some, little softball players in the area, and it has brought me a lot of joy, a lot of joy. So, yeah, driving in the car and watching sports and playing sports, and how lucky am I to be almost 40 years old and tell you that, I've got to live a life revolve around sports.
Yeah, that's really cool. The one thing about you is you give you give so much to other people from, being a mom. I mean, that's just, we know you pour your heart and your life into your children. But with everything that you do is about filling up other people, filling up other people through, here, let me teach you how to play softball or how to bat or how to, catch or, you know, do anything like that. But you're just, you just give so much of yourself to other people to fill them up, I think is amazing and an incredible attribute. Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate this, Jess.
Yeah.
I know it was a hard conversation, but I really feel that through these hard conversations that even if one person, one woman on the other side is going through something similar, and she hears your story and sees you now, I feel that that is worth being vulnerable and telling the story.
That's, yeah, if only to help one other person. And it's, I feel like sometimes it's kind of a shame that feels like it's on our side more often than not, that there are these women who have these abilities and are capable people, who are good at what they do, and that there's this choice, like you can either be you and do this thing, or you can be a mom. And the hurdles that women have to clear to be able to do both is astounding. Uh, but that's again that's a podcast for a different day.
That's also a podcast.
But you know, I was fortunate to be able to have my time in the sun. You know what I mean? I had, for such a long period of my life, it was just about me. I mean, Mad Bova followed me to every corner of the country and he never batted an eyelash. So I think what makes it easier is that I was fortunate enough. I've had some really awesome experiences. And, at this point, success in the business or success in a manner that is achievable, you know what I mean? Is just not nearly as important or fulfilling as the torture of being a mom. You know what I mean? And just like it kicked in the teeth every day for free. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just a different kind of success, I should say. Is that how difficult is it to raise four healthy, well-rounded, emotionally mature, responsible, kind kids?
Yeah.
It's the hardest job that there will ever be. And there will be no greater investment of my time or energy ever in the world and ever. And that, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
When you put it like that. I've had my fun and I've had my time in the sun, but now the real work is, can I help these four children experience the same, no matter what that looks like for them? But can they do it and be a good person? And that's the real challenge, and that's where the real work is. And there's just no measures of success, I should say, until the end.
Right. Absolutely. Now, if we fast forwarded, I think this is the last question. If we fast forwarded, Joshua's out of college, or actually out of high school and in college. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, not to make time go faster, but do you ever see yourself being an entrepreneur again?
It's a great question. I think that if something happens next, right? And whatever that is, I, at this point, have no idea. Yes, I believe it would be something of my own doing in some capacity. I don't, or I would go work for Costco for sure. So
Did not expect that.
yeah, or Costco.
Or Costco.
Yeah, they have great employee benefits.
Yes. Yes, they do.
And if they're still selling a foot-long hot dog for $1.50 in this economy, I'm on board with that guy. So, no, just another joke. Yeah, it would be, I would do something in an entrepreneurial fashion, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. I am extremely looking forward to your induction into the Pitt Hall of Fame on September 20th, 26th, 2025.
Yeah.
I will be there with bells on. So excited.
We gotta find something to wear.
Yes. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to Stories That Shaped Her. Tune in next time. We'll have another great conversation. Thanks, Jess Bova.
Thanks for having me.